Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Combating Cancer. My name is Gwen Kelly, and I'm your host. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, a little bit of background information about me is that I was diagnosed with stage 3 astrocytoma brain cancer when I was 19. And the reason why I created this platform is because I wanted to have a safe space for those who were either going through active treatment, in remission, or have lost a loved one to cancer to come on and share their story. Today, I have a very special guest, Scott Kaufman. Hello, Scott.
Hi, Gwen.
How are you doing?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you're here. We haven't spoken since the gala. Scott actually came to a brain cancer awareness gala that we hosted for the first time this past October, and he shared the story of what it's like to be a father losing his daughter to brain cancer. And when I first started this platform, you were one of the first people I thought about having on because you were so courageous and sharing your story. And we originally connected, I think it was back in 2021 when my father introduced us and told me everything about your daughter, Jennifer. Is that correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
It was shocking for me at the time. When I first got diagnosed, I didn't know anyone else who has been impacted by brain cancer. And it's interesting how once you're diagnosed, you realize how small the community is and how many lives it touches. I don't know what your initial reaction was when you heard about my diagnosis, but I was shocked to know someone else who went through this.
Yeah, it was actually pretty difficult when your dad shared what you were going through. Obviously, a couple reactions. One was it brought back the memories of what we went through. And the first part was you had glioblastoma. And that is usually a very difficult thing to deal with and recover from. We were crying. And then when he shared that you were doing really well, it was like God granted a gift.
Yeah, I'm sure. I definitely do feel like God granted me an unbelievable gift. Why don't you just tell the listeners here a little bit of background about yourself and your family and everything that went on when you found out that your daughter was diagnosed?
Kathy and I have been married a long time, 50 something years. And Jennifer is our oldest daughter. We have another, Elizabeth, has two kids, and Jennifer has four. And her husband, Nate, is in San Diego taking care of those kids. I was actually playing golf when we got the news. Kathy came out and got me and said, Jennifer is going to the emergency room in San Diego, and Nate was out of town and we need to go. Of course, Jennifer did not know what the problem was, but she was having trouble walking and using one of her feet and legs. And that's how it all started. And I went down to the emergency room and Kathy stayed at home with the kids. And it just went from there.
When you got the call on the golf course and you were trying to get your footing about everything that was happening with Jennifer, what was your first initial thoughts when you received this phone call? I'm sure cancer was the last thing on your mind.
Yeah, I didn't expect anything like that at all. And even in the emergency room, I didn't expect anything like that. And Jennifer was obviously very worried. She suspected something bad. I don't know that she suspected cancer, but she did even say in the emergency room before we saw the doctor that she said, Dad, I don't want to die. And I was in denial, of course. I said, Jennifer, that's not going to happen.
It's heartbreaking. I think back to my dad and how painful it must have been to hear something like that. For you, it must have been an absolute nightmare.
It's difficult. We miss her a lot. Think about her all the time. You put one foot in front of the other one and keep going. As we went through this, we were all obviously cognizant of the fact that it can be a very difficult process. And so she wanted to make sure that we would be there for Nate and her kids after she was gone. And of course, we have been. We stay very actively involved in their lives. And that is great. It's really good. Sometimes it's hard, but it's a good thing too, because as they get older, they look even more like her.
How was it for you and your wife watching her go through treatment?
There were some peaks, but mostly valleys at different stages. At first, it was not diagnosed, and we didn't really know what was going on. The emergency room doctor probably didn't do a great job, didn't order a CT scan or anything. So we didn't know. And then they were actually here visiting. We thought maybe if we took her to get some acupuncture, it would help her feel better. And she got sick. And so we went to an urgent care place and they sent us to the emergency room. And then they met us at the emergency room and they were back with the doctor when Nate actually called me sitting in the emergency room and said, they didn't say that she had a tumor. They said she had a cyst. So I still didn't know what that meant. So that was the beginning of the process. And that was, I don't know, an outer body experience. And it took her right to the ICU. and she was there for several days, and we still didn't know really exactly what was going on until we got the results of the biopsy and things of that nature. And even at that point, that doctor there, the neurosurgeon there, I guess, was hesitant to tell us the truth. We were not really sure until we took her to Mayo and we got the straight story from the doctors there, which was devastating.
How did that affect you in the moment? Were you trying to figure out what the next steps were going to be, or were you in a state of shock?
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was like, okay, what's going on? But when we got the news, we just said it was very serious. And my initial reaction was just, I don't know what's the right choice of words. I was really depressed. I wasn't able to get to the point about what's the next steps, which is usually me. By the time I got there to Rochester and we all got there, it was like, okay, what are we going to do? How do we go through this process? And then it was just, you got to do what you got to do. And she had her first surgery there. And it was great because before the surgery, she was just totally out of it. The pressure, obviously, on her brain was pretty great. Heartbeat was really low and everything. And when she came back from the surgery, it was like she was her old self. And it was awesome. So we were relieved at that point and hopeful.
So was it just one surgery or were there numerous surgeries?
3 by the time we were done with that at different places. So the doctor at Mayo, the neurosurgeon, did a great job. Told us, of course, the bad news that she did not get it all and wouldn't be able to get it all. So then after that, we started treatment, of course, and radiation. We were at Mayo for 12 weeks. And then when she went home, we were still pretty hopeful. They said that the outlook after the surgery was actually as good as it could be. They were pretty hopeful too. Right before we left there, that probably would have been 12 weeks, 3 months basically since the process started. And they said the scans that they did looked really good.
Okay, so the first surgery went well. Jennifer was starting to feel like herself. She was able to go back home for a little bit. When did the second surgery occur?
We had gone to Wisconsin for the summer and they were coming up to visit. And she stopped with Nate on the way back for another scan. And I had the Mayo app. And so I looked at it and it said surgery was scheduled for the next day. That was the second one. That went okay too. But at some point they said, this isn't going to work. Would like you to go to MD Anderson and start a trial. At MD Anderson, we had the third surgery and went on from there.
How was Jennifer's spirits through all of this? Was she open about her fears or putting on a brave face?
She lasted 22 months. We went through a lot of different kinds of things, tough throughout the whole process. She was going to fight. And I don't think she was in denial, but she was never willing to accept the fact that there wasn't something that she could do to try to beat this.
She was going to keep persevering no matter what, doing any type of trials, surgeries, doing it all.
Yep, she was. I think you always have to have hope. Once she was back home from the third surgery and the beginning of the treatment, then she was all in San Diego. We'd go back and forth for a while to Houston so they could check on how that was going. At some point, that didn't work either. We went to, I think it was the University of San Diego, and they continued to try to help fight the best thing.
Obviously, she was a fighter, and you and your wife were with her every single step of the way.
We were there to help. Obviously, Nate was a tremendous caregiver, but we were in San Diego to help on a daily basis, make their lunch and drive them to school and pick them up and try to work with them on their homework at night.
Practice some math skills.
Yeah. Math that they're teaching these kids now is nothing like what I was their age. So that was a challenge.
They were teaching you at that point.
Yeah, they were. And we were fortunate. They went to a K-8 Christian school. The school itself was very supportive and all the teachers are very supportive. So that was very helpful.
Yeah. When the doctor said that there was nothing more they could do, what went through your mind? Was it disbelief? Was it anger? What was your thought process? Were you just like, I don't believe this? She's supposed to watch her kids get married, watch them walk down the aisle. Where was your mind at this point?
Yeah, by the time that we realized that there was nothing else that could be done, Jennifer was not in a good place. She was not coherent a whole lot and just struggling to keep going. I don't know that I ever was really angry or bitter about the whole thing. I was mostly just sad, as you said, that she's not going to get to experience these things. Like our other daughter, Elizabeth, was and still has it sometimes these days, anger. How could this be happening? She doesn't deserve it, etc. But as we got near the end, Gwen, it just was bad. And I didn't want her to have to live like she was living. The end was can be a blessing in itself.
Right, that totally makes sense. I understand what you're saying. So, throughout this entire process, how was your relationship with God? I know personally you and your entire family were continuously praying for me. So, do you feel like God really helped you process everything that was going on? Where was your head at with all of this?
We prayed a lot in the beginning that God would help find a cure and all of those things that obviously never happened. I guess my perspective at this point is God didn't give Jennifer the disease, and he obviously didn't cure her of the disease, but we know that she's in a better place. And so we take some comfort in that. We go to church on a regular basis. When I listen to some of the things that are said about how God can accomplish anything, some of that I have a hard time. Why did he help us? God has a plan for everybody. Sometimes makes me wonder if that's really true, but I think that's normal. That my reaction is normal.
I just want to say that as a father, you did everything humanly possible for your daughter. It's absolutely heartbreaking that you had to witness her go through such a difficult journey, and yet through it all, you remain steadfast, loving her and continuing to care for her children with everything you have. Your love for her husband, your family, and your continued presence in their lives speaks volumes. And now, even as you carry this grief, you're still out here helping me raise awareness about brain cancer. That kind of strength is extraordinary. Jennifer would be so unbelievably proud of you, proud of your unwavering love, your resilience, and the way you honor her story through actions and kindness. Jennifer's story is so powerful, and the way you choose to live each day to keep going and keep giving is nothing short of inspiring. So many people might hold on to that bitterness or shut down after such a devastating loss, but you're one of the kindest, most genuine people I've ever met. And the fact that your heart is still so open after everything you've endured says everything about the man that you are. It reflects the incredible father you were and still are, and how deeply you spoke life into Jennifer and into everyone around you.
Thank you for saying that. I just feel like we just have to do what we can do. There'll always be a part of me that believes that I was a failure as a dad because I couldn't get her through this. Now, I know that's not logical. You still get stuck with that on occasion. We can only try to do what we can do. And as you said, for our family, and then if there's anything we can do to help the scientists and the doctors and everybody find a way to prevent this from happening, that's what we all have to try to do. And that's why what you're doing here is such a good thing.
I really appreciate your kind words. It's just so hard to hear these stories because it's heartbreaking that people are still losing their loved ones to this. It's frustrating and unfair that we still don't have a cure. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't want to talk about it at all. I was angry and I was confused, and I didn't understand why this was happening to me, and it took time, but I realized that a diagnosis like this, whether it's your own or someone else's, forces you to take a step back. It shifts your whole perspective. You start to truly appreciate the little things, even if that's just waking up in the morning and going to work, whether you want to or not. It reminds you that you're still here, still breathing, and that life. Jennifer lived a beautiful, love filled life. And I truly believe that the way you continue to honor her by speaking about her, by sharing her story, by staying so present with your family is keeping her with us. She's still deeply loved and remembered every single day. You're doing everything you possibly can. And honestly, you're going above and beyond as a father. I have no doubt that she's looking down and smiling, so proud of all of you. Your strength, courage, and willingness to keep sharing her story makes a huge impact, and it raises awareness and reminds people how serious this disease is and shows how urgently it needs to be talked about, even when it's hard.
I appreciate that. And I do agree we got to do all that we can do to raise awareness and help other people.
Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on today and continuing to talk about Jennifer and sharing her legacy and just spreading awareness and sharing these hard stories. I just am so unbelievably grateful that you would do this for me.
No, you're welcome. And as I said, when you emailed me, anything for you.
I'm so thankful to have you as a friend, and I'm glad to have you in my life and always praying for me. I just think it's so amazing that you guys have entered my life, and meeting all of these people, especially like Mike and Bonnie Holloway that you have introduced me to. It's just so amazing how this community can bring so many people together, and it's just so great to see how supportive everyone is, and just the fact that everyone wants to find a cure and wants to help other people that they don't even know. And I just will forever be internally grateful for getting to know each and every single one of you guys.
For sure. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much again, Scott, for coming on. That is the end of today's episode of Combating Cancer. As always, please share this message to someone that you think needs to hear it. My door is always open if you or someone you know wants to come on and share their story or have a business inquiry and want to sponsor an episode. I will chat with you guys next Wednesday.